time for another round of brandy. Candid conversations over cocktails about all things brand with your hosts, Reilly Newman and Scott Saunders, the brand developers behind Motif Brands.
Welcome back to another round of brandy. Great talks, great podcasts,
great listening,
great time.
Oh my goodness!
And that's exactly what we're talking about today, right there.
What prompted this conversation is like with so many other, restaurants, eateries, bars, right? Particularly in that lane, it's part of their brand. What their brand is signaling is something like, great food, great times, great whatever, or great drinks, great food, great times, and it's like, well, yeah, I would hope so. And that's the thing is like whenever. We Reilly and I kind of crack up whenever a restaurant or something is like, or a quality service. Well, yeah, I would hope it would be quality. Like that, you don't need to state that. That should be implied, but you should signal that, obviously. But that should not be the anchor. That should not be the thing that is, that like the top of the list of what the brand is signaling out is something that should be obvious.
Yeah, and just because it rhymes doesn't make it any better. I'm talking to you wineries with a great wine, great times. It's like, no, like great wine, great dine, great times. And it's like Scott's saying, it's so obvious and it's table stakes to do that because it's like a service company going, oh, great service or something like on time or anything like that where it's like, yeah, that's part of the service. That's part of being professional. That's part of staying in business and providing value for your customers is actually doing what you're going to say. And hopefully you're over delivering.
Yeah.
Like even just delivering is table stakes. You should be over delivering on everything you say.
And I think part of it is that when you lean into these phrases, these messaging, and it's particularly with messaging, I think, for a brand's messaging, right? Yeah. When you're leaning to things that anybody in any of your competitors would naturally say, right? Or that should be expected. That's just something that a consumer would hope that would be the case. It becomes white noise. It's better to find what is it that your brand might have a distinction over, and how strongly is your brand signaling that distinction over all the other things that should be obvious? Yeah.
And a good context to put it in is if you're dating, right? We talk about this a lot with brands, is that if you're trying to create a relationship and you're dating and you say like great hygiene, great humor, great manners or something like that. And it's like, okay, you're putting yourself on the market and you're framing yourself with these things that should be...
The top of the list of the guys on his Hinge profile is, I use deodorant. Well, it's like, yes, of course. I would hope you would. But that isn't something, like you don't need to state that. You don't need to state the obvious that you're going to brush your teeth or use mouthwash before you go out on the date. And that's something that it's like, of course, let's hope. I would hope that would be the case.
Yeah, and it'd be so weird if Apple was like, great design, quality materials. It would almost make you suspicious of going like, okay,
quality software.
Did you happen to achieve that and you're trying to flaunt that when that is table stakes for everyone else on the market? And so then it's like, okay, what should you be doing? Is the obvious and these table stakes that are part of being in business for whatever your category or industry is, you have these table stakes, you have these things that should happen.
Yeah.
And just being, the nature of being in business is like, yeah, be professional, be on time, be all these things. So then what is it that you should be focusing on in your messaging? What should you be saying?
I grew up at a time in the 70s, it was huge, like I remember growing up with, with Kentucky Fried Chicken, where here they could have just said, great chicken, right? Great fried chicken. But it wasn't. What they really boasted was in their messaging and as the brand as a whole would signal to the consumer was, this is the Colonel's secret recipe. 11 herbs and spices. No one knew the ratios. No one knew the exact list. It was something that the company that KFC always kept hidden. And I remember that being a huge thing because it helps signal that if you wanted the best tasting, like you biting into the original recipe fried chicken is different than all the other fried chicken joints. It was the flavor. It was what made it unique, was its unique blend, and they leaned into that. Like, this is a top secret thing, and I think eventually now everyone knows. It doesn't matter, but back then it was something that the brand signaled and leaned in hard on.
Well, and it's funny because by default, by going, oh, it's secret, that makes it matter more. If I'm keeping a secret for a certain reason or to protect my business or it's a trade secret or anything like that, it's like that matters because of the nature of it. And so then it has nothing to do with they don't say that the secret recipe makes it taste better. Because that's subjective, right? It's like you and I can eat the same burger, and I could be like, it wasn't that great, and then someone else
great
like,
food.
I love it.
Great food is a subjective term
thing
to use.
And so then it's like, the secrecy of the recipe or whatever it could be makes it sound distinct. That's different
and desirable
because it's
desirable.
Yeah,
like,
and that's what kind of draws someone in, where it's like it makes them go, there's something different about this, and it makes them curious and draws them in and go, maybe it is better. And then even that going in with the pretense of going, or like the conceived knowledge of going like, this is secret. You're already putting it up on a pedestal. So when you go eat it, usually there can be some influence of going, this does taste better because it is secret. It does taste better, right? It's like In-N-Out with their secret sauce. That's kind of like Thousand Island dressing, where it's In-N-Out secret sauce, and it tastes great because it is their secret sauce. And there's just something to that creates this. Not a mirage. You're not lying or tricking people, but it just makes it different, makes it distinct, and makes it more special. And that's what, again, as humans, we care about the things that have meaning and have nuance, and that actually makes it special.
But even like, what is it? Is it Buc-ee's?
Buc-ee's, the gas
station. Great example, right? I mean, we don't have any out in California, but it's huge chain. But the brand, it signals what? Clean bathrooms? It's like...
Yeah, they actually do campaigns where it's like on the freeways, they have giant billboards, and it's the cleanest, I think, gas station bathrooms is like their verbiage that they use.
Right.
Which is so funny because it's like, everyone knows that gas station bathrooms aren't the best. However, you need to stop for gas. So how do you solve that?
And you need a rest stop. And a lot of times you have to go to the bathroom. And it's always like, I'd rather not hit, these gas stations. Let's find a Starbucks or something where at least we hope that there's going to be a cleaner bathroom. But for them to lean into it, they could have just said best gas prices, right? Best deli department or whatever. Biggest selection of snacks. But they lean into a clean bathroom. And that is a distinctive brand approach because they also know the consumers that when you're on road trips, a pit stop is essential. And boasting that you're going to have really clean bathrooms, that's the other gas stations aren't doing that. They're signaling other things.
Yeah, and even it can come down to taste and everything too, because when you do think of some of these successful beverages, like whether it's Red Bull or Jägermeister, they always, when they first came on the market, it was like, wow, these things taste awful. And they actually used that distinction of really poor taste to their advantage and made it like, that means it's working. Medicine does that too, where like NyQuil and stuff it's not supposed to taste good, because then when it does taste bad, we go, it must be working. It is medicine. But using something that can typically be a negative and using it for a positive and a distinction factor, that's huge, because a default would have been, no, we need to make it taste great so we can say great taste, great smell, or whatever, and match the rest of the market. But going, no, it tastes bad because it's strong, because it works. And there's just something to that of kind of turning it on its head and focusing on something that may be, again, non-obvious. The obvious solution would have been to lean into great taste or whatever it could be, and making it the non-obvious, which then makes it distinct. And so then that kind of, when Scott and I were talking about it, I was like, is that where these crossroads meet of going, okay, if something is non-obvious, is that where true distinction lies? Is that where you're able to then uncover some gold for your brand and go, because this is non-obvious, is that where you get the full leverage of distinction?
Or does the brand even try something distinct to give it that distinction? Like, for instance, there's that restaurant chain that we came across, Dick's. Is that what it's called?
Oh, yeah, Dick's.
Yeah. And they boast having like the rudest service. Like, you go in for an experience knowing you're going to be harassed. You're going to get what would appear to be the worst possible customer service from a restaurant with your server and everything else, right?
Yeah.
But it's engineered to give more of a brand experience, and they're known for this. And people come in almost like it's a floor show comedy. Like if you go to medieval times, right, and you're watching this entertainment thing happen in this, jousting ring, and you're all eating turkey legs and wearing, paper crowns on your head like you're in the medieval times. It's almost like a theater type of experience where you go into Dick's and it's like the worst customer service. You're insulted. They always find something, but that's part of it. It's like, it's an act, but it makes it unique. They took something that people are always complaining about that's usually a bad component to a restaurant. Could be the demise of a restaurant is bad service. So if they then take that and go, well, what if we spin it around and make that the reason people come in?
Yeah. And there's something to that of going, okay, is this where the non-obvious creates distinction, and distinction creates this like experience where you go, oh, it is that because it's different. It stands out to me. It has more meaning. And then as humans with this meaning, we create more value, we create more experience, and it just changes things. And I think a good example of it, of kind of a contrarian approach to something, is like the Savannah Bananas with Banana Ball. And what they brought to baseball is that they made baseball into a completely theatrical, experiential,
like the Harlem Globetrotters for basketball.
Yeah.
Savannah Bananas is the Harlem Globetrotters with baseball.
Yeah. And now they're selling out stadiums. They're doing massive things. And they even, changed some of the rules where if a player hits a foul ball, if a person in the stands catches it, the player's out. So they've done these things where they've taken, and so it's like, then,
so
then you're getting this audience interaction and engagement. And if you ever watch a Savannah Bananas baseball game, you should, because the guys,
or just look on YouTube. You'll see clips of what we're talking about.
They're doing backflips to catch the ball and stuff. It's so entertaining, and they've completely changed the game. But they took something that was so obvious, literally like rules of a ball game, and changed them. They brought theatrics to it and did all these things that are over the top and made it non-obvious, distinct, and interesting. And now, they've created an entire league that is selling tons and tons.
Yeah.
So I guess to that point, it's like, okay, if you look at your industry, you look at your business, go, what are the obvious things? Are we stating the obvious? And is there somewhere that we can either be contrarian about it or approach it differently, where we're doing something that is, non-obvious, and kind of look for those matters of
like
distinction.
Good drinks and good times. Well, of course, because everyone's drinking alcohol, you're going to have good times. That's an obvious thing. And so for a bar or a drink establishment to really just like lean into that, like, oh, like it's some sort of equation, like this plus this equals this. And it's like, well, yeah, duh. And that's nothing distinct. That's not to rest. That's not your flagship of messaging for your brand. It shouldn't be.
Yeah. And I see this too with like the organic or homegrown or
family operated for since 19, and it's like, I'm sorry, but a lot of families I know of are very, very dysfunctional. So being a family operated business does not necessarily mean that that's a good thing to boast about.
And
it's left up to interpretation of how you take that signaling.
Well, and even like the locally owned, I'm like, it's great. I'm all for supporting local businesses and everything, but it's not a reason for someone. You're going to guilt someone into giving you business just because you're locally owned. That to me is bad business and doesn't add up. And I think that there's just kind of a misconception of going, okay, if I can use this to guilt someone into doing something because of a certain standard, versus going, okay, yeah, we are locally owned, but guess what? We give you tremendous value. We do all these great things, and we're actually still going above and beyond and doing these things that are distinct. All the other local businesses are doing something, but we actually go and do something that's more distinct and valuable.
To sum it up, is that when you are working with your brand, whether you are rebranding, whether you're constantly, hopefully, rehoning, right, and refining your brand, or whether you're just launching a new brand in general, be mindful that what you're signaling to your audience, to your potential customer, or those that are already engaging with the brand, is something that makes you a little more distinct from everyone else, and you're not just saying the obvious, saying the thing that should be like, well, of course, we would hope as the audience. If that's what the audience has to say, then you need to rethink what you're doing as a brand and what you're saying.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I just thought of another example. When you look at like cell phone companies, or like, Verizon versus AT&T or any of these, they all, I swear, all their commercials are exactly the same. You could literally swap their logos, and they all say the same thing of like, "Oh, pay nothing for this phone," or "faster service, better coverage." And it's like, okay, we get it. And then you have, Mint Mobile is attacking them with lower prices and same coverage, everything, and Ryan Reynolds, which everyone loves Ryan Reynolds, and then you have now Starlink that is creating this huge threat, because now it's satellite based versus just typical cell towers. And so then you have these companies that have been literally stagnant for years and years and years, saying the same exact thing. And what's going to happen to them?
Yeah, if Starlink kicks it up, and I mean, they could dominate the cell phone market globally.
Yeah, no, and it's going to be interesting to see what plays out.
Have always done things differently, and now they've got a they're primed positionally to do a massive market takeover.
Yeah,
I
think those companies, you're going to see them start pushing different narrative and approaching differently. But it's the same thing where it's like, what's distinct about that? What's interesting?
Yeah.
But we'll be back next week with another episode of Brandy.
Thanks for listening.
Cheers.
Cheers.